What is there for you? They call it origami.
Don't be too nice. Let's see here. I used to know how to work these things. Oh well, I'll just do it like that. For those of you who thought about spending your money on sensitive skin tonight and were disappointed, you might consider my novella. Requiem for a Corner Man, $10, no change. It's about a Skid Row hotel, the death of a Skid Row hotel in Cleveland. I'm going to read a story tonight, though, called Peckerwood Blues.
That's a good name.
My cousin Jordy kicked me out after a week, and I had to hitchhike back to Carolina to face Mama, hat in hand. It took me all day to get up to Shreveport, but then I caught a break. A rusty Datsun pickup with no tailgate rolled up, and I threw my backpack in the bed on top of several black plastic garbage bags. Careful of my stuff. You think it's all right back here with no tailgate? Gotta go slow, got no choice. I ain't in no hurry. I asked him where he was headed. Going to Hotlanta. Well, that's almost home for me. And a 600-mile ride, not easy to come by. We didn't bother with names for a while, so I took to calling him dumbass in my head after he told me. So I passed out in my car and a lady cop comes knocking on my window, starts giving me a hard time, acting all big. So I called her a dyke and she bussed me for nothing. He was one of those losers who couldn't see his own hand at the tiller of his misfortune. But hey, who am I to judge? Yeah, man, cops suck.
They do.
The sun set behind us somewhere east of Monroe. We passed by Rayville, Delhi, and Tallulah, but you couldn't see anything from up on the slab. There's a little roadhouse this side of Vicksburg I like to stop. I could go for a few beers. We took the last exit before you crossed the big river and wound down until you could smell the rot of 1,000 floods on the land around. We turned into the gravel parking lot of a place called the Mississippi Queen and took a spot toward the end of the building. It was Friday night and all the Peckerwoods had flown up out of the understory to gather and strut. The Queen wasn't much more than 2 double-wide trailers plus a single, lashed together up on posts with holes cut out through the walls and patched over for passageways. It had green outdoor carpet on the floors, bare fluorescent tubes for light. It had a bar, a jukebox, and a couple of pool tables. It felt like one of those Halloween haunted houses set up by the Rotarians that redirects you every few feet to give you the impression of space. We ordered a couple of beers and dumbass starts right in on the bartender. Hey there, darling, there any more like you at home? I figured she put up with shit like this all the time, and when she glanced my way, I just smiled. I figured as long as I didn't say anything stupid, I was a biscuit ahead. We walked into the other room and put some quarters on one of the pool tables, and I checked out the jukebox while we waited for our turn. We played 2 games against the couple that held the table, losing both on the final ball. I flirted with a girl in a biker t-shirt that came up to play some more songs on the juke. Everyone was real friendly considering we were strangers. Some places are like that. After the games, we went back to the bar and did a shot of wild turkey. I still had a couple $100 from my week's wages, even after Jordy made me pay him back for the tools he had fronted me. I had tried to suggest that firing me from the carpentry job for which he bought me the tools had mooted my debt, but he said he didn't need another hammer, and rather than lodging the claw in his brain, he was family after all, I threw it in the pack with the rest of my things. Another 4 pounds of dead weight didn't matter either way. It probably helped me keep the pack from flying out of the gateless Datsun that brought me here. Now for once I had more money than time, so I indulged in the luxury of whiskey like I hadn't in all my months on the road. After the shots, we wandered away from each other and talked to different people. I killed another hour like that until I looked around and noticed dumbass wasn't anywhere in sight. I finished my beer and went outside to make sure he hadn't left without me. I found him in a circle with 5 or 6 local boys. They were fixing to fire up a J, and I insinuated myself into the circle by addressing my guy as I approached. The leader of the group was one of those undersized, wiry types that learns to fight dirty early on. I called him Little Boss. He and Dumbass, whose ability to exceed the familiarity of the moment was beginning to impress even me, did most of the talking. I chatted more quietly with the guys closest to me, but when Little Boss wanted to make a point, we all stopped to listen. Eventually, he asked us about ourselves. How'd you boys come to be here tonight? Dumbass answered. Passing through on my way to Hotlanta. I always stop in here. I picked him up hitchhiking. Everyone looked at me. Going home, Carolina. I like this here bar though. The last thing I wanted to talk about was my own sorry self. The misdirection worked. Little Boss was reminded of a story. Yeah man, the Queen, goddamn. You know that song by Mountain? He sang the next part, accompanied by some restrained air guitar. Mississippi Queen, you know what I mean. That song's about this place right here. Goddamn straight. Listen to what it says. Down around Vicksburg, down Louisiana way, there's a Cajun lady called the Mississippi Queen. He spoke the name slowly to emphasize his point. I mirrored his solemnity. Damn straight. About this time, a young woman in daisy-made togs bounced up and hung out for a minute, taking a toke and exchanging a few words with some of the boys. She turned around and gave us a little action as she went back inside. Dumbass, with his keen social sense, piped up as soon as she had turned the corner. Wonder what it costs to get a piece of that tonight. Now, there's a lot of things that might have happened next, most of which were nothing, any of which would have been preferable to, that's my wife you're talking about, friend. It was Little Boss. He straightened up and the other boys started to circle around us. One of them stepped in behind Little Boss and looked like he was about to hand him something. My life now hinged on Dumbass's ability to come up with an appropriate response. I guess I'm gonna die. At least I won't have to face Mama. My heart ticked 100 ticks in those 2 seconds, but then the God who cares for children and fools intervened. First, a guy burst through the doors of the bar, ran headlong for his car and got in and peeled out, kicking up gravel and dust as he went. 2 guys came out after him, giving up the chase after he made the main road and accelerated out of sight. Then another man, held up by 2 screaming girls, staggered out, his left arm and shirt soaked with blood. He made it to the bottom of the steps and slumped on the hood of a parked car. A wave of relief came over me as the gang around us quickly dispersed in favor of this new excitement. The knife wound to the man's shoulder was profuse, but not mortal. The bartender came out with towels to pack it. The man grimaced and swooned. Everyone chattered excitedly as they shared what they knew about the dispute. It was Jimmy Pugh. I saw him. Within a few minutes, a sheriff's deputy arrived, summoned by a call from the bar. From his casual demeanor, it seemed that this was no more than a regular stop on his nightly rounds. Check the lock on the feed store, make sure the teenagers aren't parked out on the levee, go see who got cut at the Queen. The deputy took statements and drove off to pick up Jimmy Pugh. He always ran to the same place.